It's time for $240 worth of Rabbit Fighters. Oh, yeah. Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of Rabbit Fighters, the podcast where three friends catch up on cultural touchstones that at least one of us is not in the know about. And we're on episode 3, my friends, which is 3 more than I thought we'd do. Big pat on the back to each of us for making a schedule and sticking to it.
3. Congratulate ourselves on 3 episodes.
Yeah, we did it. It's an accomplishment. I'm very proud of us. We did it. Feel very proud of yourself, guys. So this week, we're diving into the 1979 cult classic film, The Warriors. It's a tale as old as time, quite almost literally, as it's based on the book by the same name by Saul Urich, who in turn based his book, at least thematically, off of Anabasis by the Greek philosopher / soldier Xenophon, which is it's 2,400 years old. So, and Xenophon is just a fantastic name any way you slice it. So, I'm Joshua, and I can dig it.
I'm Greg. I will reveal whether I can dig it later.
Oh man, and I'm Brian, and I can totally dig it.
Welcome to Rabbit Fighters. So this is a movie that I suggested that I had seen in the past, but neither you, Brian, nor Greg had seen before, right?
It's true.
No.
Yeah. I actually had no idea how many times I'd heard references from the Warriors in pop culture. And I'd seen the spray painted Warriors sign. I've seen people talk about the Warriors. I know people that are like mega like pop culture heads, and they would like sit around and drink and be like, "The Warriors is the greatest film of all time." And you're like, "What?"
But you hadn't seen it. Like that didn't convince you. Like we convinced you to watch it.
No, I had not seen it.
And Brian, you had up until this point never seen The Warriors.
Unbelievably and sadly, no. I don't know how I missed this movie as like a cult classic. Definitely a fun film. I'm surprised I hadn't seen this, so I'm excited to hear everyone's thoughts on The Warriors.
Nice. Well, so Greg, you have some experience with this. You've had friends who have like recommended this to you before, but you ignored their advice up until now. I'm curious to find out why that is. I feel like it's permeated the subconscious of America up until now, but why did you ignore it? Why did you not see this film back in the day?
I don't know. It just looks cheap, It looks like, it just looks like this cheap, crappy movie. The spray painted Warriors sign looks cheesy, it looks like it was made for about $50, which, it was, I think it might have been for about 2.7 million or something, but in a movie, for movies, that's nothing. That's $50. And, it's any movie that's got 1 million male actors is already an alarm bell for me. I don't know. It just seems like it's machismo fest or something. I was like, this is going to just be a bunch of chest beating and stupid shit. So.
All right, so Greg did not expect much out of this movie going into it. Brian, what did you expect going into this movie?
100% pure adrenaline.
Is that on a poster?
A ton of leather. I didn't expect a ton going into it. I didn't watch the trailer or anything, but knowing it was like 1979, 80 and low budget, I assumed it was going to be a pulpy, corny film, as most like cult classic type things are, that has its own weird, unique audience. And I was like, okay, this is going to be goofy as hell. I mean, so, but I'm up for it. I thought I came into it thinking like, this is going to be campy and goofy, but if you go in with the mindset of that, I didn't have super high expectations. So I came away thinking it was pretty funny and well done and low budget, shoestring, ridiculous gangster movie.
Gangster.
So I wish I had known about this movie like when I was young, but I actually didn't hear about it until like well after college, like into my 20s. I was working in a deli, and there was another worker there who he was an extra in The Warriors, and like he was just like this badass like dishy chef guy who just carried around his own knife and stuff, but just
Oh man.
telling like war stories like to people who you work with, and it just came up one day that like, oh yeah, I was an extra on the Warriors, and I had heard about this movie, but I'd never seen it before, but that inspired me to go to like actually like go to the video store and get this movie and watch it to see this guy whose name I can't remember now, but he was one of the dudes who like I think jumped down onto the train tracks at one point, but he wasn't like a real character or anything like that, but he was in the movie, and that inspired me to like actually go see the Warriors. And once I saw it, I was hooked.
Can't remember his name though. Sounds
Yeah,
like he had a real impact on you.
Hambone. His name was Hambone.
Yeah. Dishy. That's what you called him.
Also his character name in the Warriors. Hambone. He shot Cyrus. His Hambone.
He's the gang of the dishwashers, the dishies.
That I would want to see, man. The dishes. They got like sponges and mops. Shit.
Are you going to explain the premise of the Warriors? For anyone that has never seen this, that thinks we're just idiots talking about this.
Anyone who's never seen the Warriors, it's I feel like this movie only works if it's like an alternate dimension, New York City in the 70s. Because outside of that, it's just ridiculous. But it's late 70s. The New York is overrun with these gangs that are all dressed in very specific ways that call out who they are. There's like the clown gang, and there's like the baseball gang, and there's like people are just dressed like where their colors are very like off the wall. And so there's a meeting that's been called up in the Bronx, and the Coney Island gang, the Warriors, who are all no shirt and a leather vest, very tasteful.
If you're not in shape, you don't get to wear the vest.
Yeah, some have wife beaters.
Yeah, the guys who don't have the best physique wear wife beaters underneath it. So every major gang, because there are minor gangs that don't get the invitation. Every major gang gets an invitation. 9 guys, no weapons whatsoever. They get called up, go to the Bronx. There's a big meeting. This big guy named Cyrus, he's got an announcement. And all indications are that he's like a prophet. He's gonna pull everybody together. And then the leader of the Rogues just kills Cyrus just outright.
But he gave it away.
He blames it on the Warriors. And then the Warriors have to like make it all the way back to Coney Island, which I did Google Maps it. It's 2 hours, like from the Bronx down by train. It's 2 hours from the Bronx down to Coney Island.
And the movie's only an hour and a half.
Yeah, no, like there's lots of detours, there's lots of action that takes place, but eventually the Warriors make it back to Coney Island and then have a big face-off in the finale. Did I leave anything out?
It's basically like a gang version of the Family Circus, where they like send Jeffy out for milk, but then like Jeffy didn't go straight for the milk. He patted a puppy. He ran through a sandbox. He went to the neighbor's yard. Came
There was
around
a guy
the
with roller
backside of the
skates that
tree.
tried to beat
He
them
got
up.
mud all over his pants. Jeffy! And he didn't even remember the milk. It's basically, that's the plot of this. And I love how they're always like, this is a remake of the classic Greek drama. You're like, no, it isn't. Just call it what it is.
What are you talking? It totally is. Well, that's one of the things I really like about this, is because it does take some items directly from like the Greg would have you believe that it doesn't pull from the Greek sources.
Hero's journey.
But I mean, like Cyrus is not like the book that it's pulled from. They use different names and stuff, but the movie actually went back and dug into the Greek sources and renamed a lot of the characters, like Ajax and Cyrus. They're pulled from the original the Greek sources. But 2,400 years ago, these Greeks went into Persia and they got trapped behind enemy lines and they tried to fight their way out. And that's the story. That's very simplistic. And the Warriors does embellish it quite a bit, but I think at its core, I think you can argue that's a direct translation from the the ancient Greek, which for a movie in the late 70s, like that's boiled down to just like gang warfare. I think that's kind of amazing that is pulled from that.
Yeah, see, I feel like this is not like a Greek drama though. This is like an end of the Vietnam War era. Like New York is a war zone, and it's like it's supposed to be like a post-apocalyptic type of thing, where like this is society that doesn't really exist, but it could. But like it kind of did though. Like everyone in New York in the '70s felt like they lived in a war zone, and like they didn't feel safe going in the streets. They didn't feel safe going on the train, especially the freaking train. They didn't feel safe anywhere. Spray paint everywhere, trash, super high crime. The city was like considered as a disaster.
I mean, and that's one of the reasons I really love this movie, because I love New York movies just as a genre. Like whether it's Annie Hall or The French Connection, or like I feel like The Warriors is one of those just quintessential New York movies. New York is a character in the story at large. Like The Warriors wouldn't be The Warriors without it being set in New York City. And I just love that aspect of it. That it's this time and place that didn't really exist, because it's definitely like embellished somewhat, but it also, like, to your point, Greg, it did exist to a certain degree. Yeah, like it was pretty crazy in the late 70s. It was pretty raw and pretty dirty.
Yeah, place was a mess. I'll say this. I listened to an interview with the director, Walter Hill, and he said that they were naive thinking that they could shoot it in New York. And so he went to in the Bronx. So he went to the Bronx. They shot for one day in the Bronx. And he said, like, all these gangs came up on the roofs of their buildings and were shouting and jeering at him and stuff. And like, they were like, we can't film here. It's not safe. So they went to like Queens and filmed most of it in
The
Queens.
Bronx was
but
too
like,
much.
yeah, they couldn't. Even with the film crew, all those dudes, cops helping them, like they still couldn't even film there. So yeah, it was like a war zone, and they didn't like dress up those
No,
trains
those
for
were
the movie.
those were the
That's what the
trains.
trains looked like. The people spray painted all over the trains.
Yeah, I read a few anecdotes about that as well, where like equipment got stolen from the shoot. And there were like several scenes where they had to like make sure that the actors weren't actually wearing the colors of the local gangs when they left the set, because they might
they didn't
actually
really die.
And when the movie came out, there were actual shootings, there were deaths. In the theaters, because gang members would go and see this together and see someone else from a rival gang in the seats as well, and it just boiled out of control. So there's definitely, I think that's something that adds to the mystique of this film, is it really did tap into some reality of gang life in the late 70s.
Yeah.
Well, I loved this movie from the first time I saw it. I just thought it was fantastic. This is really the first time I've seen it, though, where I kind of thought about it critically, like building up to our podcast here. So I think I saw it with a different set of eyes this time around, which I think honestly really only cemented like how much I really enjoyed this movie. But I am interested to hear, Brian and Greg, like your feelings on this as like an actual, piece of art. Was it good? Was it terrible? Did it resonate with you? Is it a piece of trash? Like, lay it on me. I want to hear from like what you guys think about it.
Brian first.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Like I said, in terms of like films, I kind of definitely go in open minded. I kind of knew what I was getting into, watching it. It has a cool, greasy, dirty vibe to it. The New York side to it, and I mean, obviously it's cheesy, right? The dialogue is terrible, and like the gangs are hilarious and just like comical and over the top. But that's the charm in it. The fight scenes are goofy as hell. The gangs make no sense, and it just is really funny to me. Like the baseball furies.
Yeah, man. The baseball bat fight. I love the baseball bat fight. There's the one where one guy puts the bat up Like, and the guy just keeps hitting him, and he like keeps raising the bat, and the guy keeps hitting the bat, and I'm like, you're really bad at rock paper scissors, I bet. he just keeps throwing scissors, and I got rock.
I thought the funny scene too is the I had to look it up. Which gang has the fight in the bathroom?
The punks. Those guys are not punks.
The punks, but they're wearing roller skates. The roller skate gang.
I know, and that one guy's following him down the tracks, and I'm like, I would not be scared at all. I'd just be like, oh, here you go.
He wasn't menacing at all to you? In his
he was
overalls
such a
and
goon.
roller skates?
Just
One of my literally my first thought impression when I was watching the beginning is they're all headed to the meetup, and they're all taking the train. And I was laughing in my head because they're all buying and paying subway fare.
I know. That's me too.
They're all law-abiding gang citizens, like gang
handed
citizens.
tokens to each other.
One dude had tokens, and he was like, "One after you, and after you, and after you."
He's like, "Oh, there's only 9 of us. We gotta pay." I was like, "Okay, this is ridiculous."
Gotta pay.
Then only once mayhem starts, so they start jumping turnstiles, and I was like, "Oh,
awesome.
So we're a civilized gang world."
Because they respect the system.
Oh,
They're from New York.
I know.
I love the idea of so the Warriors are trying to get home, and all the gangs are like calling up someone to like report in. I love the idea that there's some central authority that has a phone tree for all the gang leaders to contact to check in, because you want to keep in contact.
Or they have that lady who we just see her mouth.
The DJ,
who like they apparently just keep calling the DJ. Like,
was she not aligned with the riffs though?
I feel like she was aligned with the overall gang authority. Like she was the narrator.
Maybe, I don't know.
Isn't that the chief from Carmen Sandiego?
Yes, she did play. No, I looked it up. She played the chief from Carmen Sandiego like in the 90s, which is just awesome.
Yeah, I remember her voice. I think her name's Lynn Thigpen.
Yes, which is such a weird name, but yeah.
Yeah.
Not a single fight happens until minute 48, which is like half the movie. They're just running. It's just running away from people for 48 minutes. And you're just like, is someone going to fight? Except for the one guy that's the incredibly homophobic.
Ajax.
Is that Ajax? Yeah, so whatever. So he's always wanting to fight everybody, but he's clearly...
Dropped a lot of F-bombs.
Because he's so...
It's like 3 or 4 times.
I know.
After the second time, you're like, this is a little disturbing.
I ain't gay. I'm going to hit on this lady cop. Check me out.
It's the 70s, not the 30s.
Hey, man. Yeah.
I think that's one of the things I actually really liked about it is that none of them are good guys. Like they're none of them are like they're all weird gang characters. But none of them are like, none of them are heroes. There's all like super questionable shit that goes down throughout the movie where you're just like, this is just one other gang that we're focusing on. Like at one point when they pick up Mercy from the orphans, they're like threatening to gang rape her, which is terrible. Just
she's like, whatever.
It's New York
hang out with
City,
the orphans,
whatever.
hang out with you, whatever.
No, it's like that just gets glossed over super quickly in the movie, and they just move on to like the next thing that's going on. But you in the audience are like, that's fucked up. These are not characters that I want to root for, and yet the movie is called The Warriors, and these are the protagonists, and so therefore we're following them.
Yeah, 1,000%. A whole bunch of things happen where the next second you're like, well, what happened to that person that just died? And they don't even care. It's like once the person dies, they just keep moving.
I know.
I don't even know what character got thrown on the train tracks. Like, it was a
Fox.
Okay, sure.
Fox? Yeah. Which was funny. Also, the leader gets killed like right away, and then they have this thing where they're like, Ajax and
Swan.
What's his name? Angel
Swan,
or something?
Swan.
Who's the lead? Swan. Ajax, and it's like, I'm the leader of this. They're like, I'm the leader of this gang. No, I am. Oh yeah, yeah.
End of story.
Like it.
Who made you war chief?
War chief. Yeah.
Who made you war? He's like, Me, that's who.
Can we talk about
He's
this
like,
later?
oh, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that guy's a jerk, but I'm going to follow him. And then no one talks about him ever again. Yeah.
I
Do
thought
we
this
have
was a
quorum?
democracy.
I think we have a plurality here,
Yeah.
okay? I think we've all, we have quorum, but the swan thing. I think the orphans are my favorite part. The orphans and the
Yes.
Lizzies, those are my two favorite ones. The orphans is like that big cockeyed guy who's like, we're plenty tough. We're
It's like
plenty
Ray
tough.
Romano.
And no one,
Like, what are you doing in
we
my
didn't even
neighborhood?
get invited to the big thing. We're plenty tough.
The most
The comical
malleable
transfer of the lady from
gang leader
their
ever.
gang to the war is just like, they're like, I guess we ain't gonna have no trouble if you pass through our neighborhood. And she's like, oh yeah, what's wrong with you idiots? Why don't you fight them? And they're like,
Yeah.
we better fight
Why
them.
don't we fight him?
And then she's like, then they blow up a car, and then she's like, hey, you know what? You guys are all right. I think you're where it's at. And she just follows him. What?
Okay,
What
I
is-
feel like Greg's mockery is an indication of how he really feels about this film.
Where did
So-
we get the Molotov cocktail?
He just
He had
carried
that.
it around
It was-
like Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, it was in a little Johnny Jump Up.
Oh,
like
all right.
it was.
I think it's just funny though, like how much of this movie is based on like the train. It's just like the MT. It's like the MTA put together like a movie to get kids to ride the train. You know, they're just like, hey, look, kids, you can get all the way from the Bronx to Coney Island on a series of trains.
He'll make it to
Like,
Coney.
But so much of it was about like jumping turnstiles and making trains. It was a commuter's nightmare movie.
Just getting from point A to point B, which is probably why I loved it so much.
To Greg's point earlier, I thought kind of it was. I wasn't sure if it was post-apocalyptic or not because there's really no people. There's people on the trains here and there, but I'm like, they make it seem like it's a pretty empty city, and you're like, what's going on? Like, but it's not because at that one scene there was like prom kids or whatever that are on the train. You're like, oh, okay, I guess
that I forgot about, and that was my favorite scene in the freaking movie by a million miles.
See, I wanted to talk about that later, but
That
yeah,
was my
that's
favorite scene in that movie.
likewise. No, that's
Can
Well, we can go back. We can talk about it later then.
we
No.
talk about it now though? Because like
talk
I'm
about
gonna
it, Greg,
forget it, right?
because I put that down as my notes. Is like that's a high point for the movie
That's-
for me. Is
That's the only part of the movie where I was like, oh shit, this makes the whole movie have perspective, you know, because it's like, and that's what I was talking about a minute ago. You know, these people are disposable. You grind them up, you spit them out. Nobody notices, nobody cares. You only care when you see them, and then you just wish they weren't there. And you know, and when they get on the train, and like they don't even mess with them, right? Like the Warriors don't even mess with them. They're just like looking at him a little, and the kids are just like, we got to get the fuck out of here, you know. It's next stop, we're out of here. Like it's just like this little bubble, you know, that gets introduced of like the rest of the world, you know. And it
that like these basic bitches get on to the train, and the gang members are like, it throws into like juxtaposition of like their lives versus like the basic people's lives. But the prom people are looking at Mercy up and down, and they see like the grime under their fingernails. They see the bruises like all up and down her legs, and they're like taken aback. But I just love so much that part where like Mercy's like looking at them, and she's about to like fix her hair, and Swan's like no, you don't like make yourself look better for them because we're tougher than them. Like they're just like basic New Yorkers. We're like the real deal. That scene more than any other scene in the movie like really made it feel like a real film to me.
And I've heard people of color talk about this experience in America, you know, like this experience of being like this so othered that when people see you, they like get off the train, or, you know, and it's like, it's nothing they did or said or anything. They're just sitting there, and people are like, ugh, scary people of color, and they just like take off, or, you know, police follow them everywhere they go, whether they're doing something or not, you know. Like I feel like in the 70s was kind of interesting because society gets shaken up so much from the Vietnam War and all the protests and everything that like it was like a little bit of a shining moment of having integrated, casts and movies and TV shows and talking about like race, like All in the Family talked about race the way nobody would do these days, unless it was like some little network show on Netflix or something where, a tiny audience, but like a broadcast network show, like talking about race and interracial relationships and stuff like that. That stuff doesn't even happen now. And in the 70s, they had this, period of upheaval where they would do that. And looking at the cast of the Warriors, I was like, there's all kinds of people in this cast. It represents all kinds of different people from different, backgrounds. So I thought that was pretty cool too. And the white kids, of course, coming the train. You were like, yeah, this is the other experience, like when you're othered by society.
Yeah, I think that's one nice thing about movies in a sense where it is kind of a time capsule where, you're obviously never going to see a movie like this made ever again. So you kind of take it for what it is and whatever the social commentary is or whatever's happening in the world and what's acceptable at that time is just totally different.
It didn't strike me as like anything other than just like a relic of its time. If I was to show this to like my kids when they're a bit older, I would have to like couch it with like, this was a different era. And so there's things you're going to hear that you're not used to hearing nowadays.
Funny enough, like now the violence in this movie is comical compared to what violence in movies is today. It's just hilarious, clown New York Yankees players running around baseball bats that's like the high point of the violence in this movie.
That's menacing.
That's just hilarious. It's so funny. And like when he when he throws a switchblade into that bad guy's arm, Luther's arm, and he's like,
it was so overacted. It was amazing. That is like probably the lowest of the low points in the whole movie for me is that when they're on the beach at the end, the riffs are about to show up, like it's the showdown, and he asks them like, why did you waste Cyrus? And his answer is just it's so glib. It's just like, I just like doing stuff like that. Like I feel like the writers could have just like thought for like 20 more minutes and come up with a better line or some other like way to like phrase that would have framed it in a way that was a little bit more like, I don't know, believable, as well as like rounded out that character a little bit more. It's just like, yeah, I just like doing shit like that. Like that's just who I am. Like that fell so flat at the very end. Like I want to hate you as a villain. Give me a real reason to hate you as a villain, not just like, I'm chaotic, whatever.
Yeah, and the weird thing too, and this struck me as bizarre, which was to have the movie end on a beach. It's like they're in the underpass thing in Coney Island. You're like, cool, they can have a rumble inside this thing, and it's all dark like the whole rest of the movie. And it's like, no, the ocean is home or whatever. I'm like, oh, lame. Like, what a beach scene? Like, this is so stupid.
That's the ancient Greek source.
I thought that was cool.
That was the ending of the Anabasis, was that they made it to the beach. And I forget what it is, but in ancient Greek, they like yelled out, the sea. And that's how the story ended, was them like on the beach. They had made it home. And so I think that's where that came from in the Warriors.
I actually like the beach. I was like, you've come to the edge of the world, and like there's no going further. You have to turn around and take a stand. Like you've reached the end. And it's their turf, so they're like, now we're not running anymore. Now we're defending. Now we're the 300 or whatever. What I thought was lame about that was when they play a Joe Walsh song in the city. It's like,
yeah,
in the city, because they were in a city. You see, I was like, this is no thematic or like any context to this movie at all. It's just like,
yeah, all the budget went to Joe Walsh.
What? I was like, you couldn't find a better. And the whole rest of the movie is like, like menacing.
The soundtrack is solid.
Keyboards. But then
I love that. But all the original Barry Dvorak, if I'm saying his name correctly, like all like the 80s synth or I should say late 70s, kind of the synth vibe. That's great. I love the soundtrack of this, like the vibe and just like the lo-fi type of. It's almost like when you put real songs, it was lame. But if they just done the whole thing, it kind of gives it that like
Yeah. Well, that's why
kind of sinistery, weirdo, like
Halloween.
I love that.
It had the Halloween soundtrack kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like the synthy 80s sound. I thought it was really cool. I liked it.
I just thought it was like, at the end, it just suddenly, it's like putting in like Dirty Work by Steely Dan, where you're just like, I don't want to do your dirty work, because they're not doing dirty work anymore. It's just so dumb.
All right, well, you guys ready for some trivia about the Warriors?
Sure.
All right, let's do it. President Ronald Reagan was a fan of the film The Warriors, even calling the film's lead actor Michael Beck to tell him he had screened it at Camp David and enjoyed it. Does this change anyone's vote for whether this is a good movie or not, based on Ronald Reagan liking it?
Reagan had dementia at the end, man. He probably saw a John Wayne movie and called the wrong guy. I loved your movie. It was great.
All right, Robert De Niro was asked to be play the role of Cowboy, which was the guy with the cowboy hat on the Warriors. I don't know if you put that together, but Cowboy. But he passed on it.
What? Robert
De Niro.
What? He passed on it? Oh,
Could
no.
you imagine this film with a young Robert De Niro, fresh off of Taxi Driver, in the Warriors, as not even a main character, as a side character,
Cowboy
within the gang. Like
he gets run over by a train too.
Is that what happened to Cowboy? Was he the one who died?
I think that's the guy Fox. And I was also reading that he was meant to be
Fox,
the love interest of Mercy, but they had no chemistry.
Swan didn't have chemistry either, man.
Or something like that, where Swan made something, I don't know, like better choice, whatever.
There was a movie where Maria Conchita Alonso and Arnold Schwarzenegger were supposed to be a couple. It was The Running Man.
The Running Man, yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
Yeah. And they have a kiss at the end of it. It just looks like two people kissing 2x4s. It's like, now you come in for the big kiss.
Yeah, chemistry.
You can tell we are in love.
Yeah, because there's that weird subway scene. That's kind of this.
Yeah, where they're.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Like in the tunnels.
Like, what the hell is this?
The subway.
She's like, hey man, why don't we make it or something? We should make it. And he's like, no.
He's like, no, we got to get to where we're going. And she's like, come on.
And then later he's like, I'm aggressive toward you sexually. And she's like, whoa, man, where was this before?
I thought we were going to travel together.
So bad.
All right, last piece of trivia here. Ajax's line, I'll shove that bat up your ass and turn you into a popsicle, is ranked number 12 on UGO's top 50 tough guy lines.
That's a great
and on
line.
the top 50 greatest baseball lines ever.
Wait, let me guess. He's the guy
that's a funny
also
line.
dropping up. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The homophobic guy.
That whole.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's some subtext.
Yeah, he talks a lot about.
Yeah,
the whole stuff going on there.
The cop.
It's like,
yeah, he just got too rough with her, and then she just fucking arrests him. And he's like, "Come on, lady, come on, let me go, come on."
I saw an interview with that guy, and he said that he said Walter Hill was like, I should have brought Ajax back. It was stupid. I should have brought him back later in the movie. And he was like, no, Ajax transgressed. In the old Greek sense of the word, like he had like hubris, and he went out and went outside of the gang and the mission, and he paid for it, and that was correct that he should pay for it, and it meant him getting fewer scenes, but like. I thought it was interesting that he made that point. Like, nope, that's a Greek thing. It's a Greek mistake, like a hubris thing. I was like, oh, all right.
Tying it back to the source material.
Respect that opinion. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's tie it up here. Let's talk about final scores for the Warriors in Brian and Greg's eyes. How'd you guys feel about this? End of the day, rate it on a scale that you feel fit to rate it on. Brian, go first.
I want to say like my like I want to say A, but it's not deserving of that at all. Like but it's so goofy that I want to love this thing. Like,
Yeah.
but it's terrible. It's trashy and garbage. But I feel like I'm giving everything B pluses. But you know, I have a soft spot for like grindhouse crap, cult shit.
Crap.
I'm giving an A, man. This thing is an A minus. It's just great. If you go in with the expectations of like, you know what it's going to be and it's going to be hilarious. Like for every gang encounter, I was just like laughing because it's like so over the, is this so over the top? Like, you know, it's like you gotta watch this. Like, I wish I had found this movie when I was younger because I think I would have had a lot more fun making fun of this for the past decade. Just as like for rewatches, I don't know how I've never stumbled on this, I guess, but yeah, I mean, oh, man, I'm giving this thing a solid A minus for just ridiculousness and costume and cinematography, everything about this. Like, I would totally go see this in like at the Music Box or something, and all about seeing this thing. I think it'd be fantastic. Yeah, so A minus for me.
Brian can dig it.
Yeah, I can dig it.
So what, Greg? What were your feelings about the movie here? How do you rate it?
It's funny. It's like a funny movie. There was some stuff that was better than I thought it was going to be. You know, the guy who directed it is not a hack. You know what I mean? Like I think he wrote it too. Or I don't know. I think he wrote the screenplay of the book, or you know, I think he wrote the third iteration after the Greek original and the
actual novel,
and then and then he wrote his own thing. So like you can tell he kind of knows what he's doing, you know. You can also tell he doesn't have the money he needs, and also he's trying to cast all of New York at once, and you're not going to get all those male New York actors are not going to be good, right? So you're just going to get some mutants. Like some of the orphans are hilarious. Like there's
they're all dirty. None of them have bathed.
I actually did really. Yeah, exactly. I actually did like Cyrus. I was like, he is kind of charismatic, man. He's like, can you dig it? Like and I've heard that in rap music and stuff like that as a sample. Also, the Warriors Come Out and Play was in a Twisted Sister song, but they say Twisted Sister.
Oh, do they really?
Come out and play. And I used to listen to that, and I never knew that was a reference until I saw this. Yeah,
it's also in a Wu-Tang song. Old Dirty Bastard says it.
Yeah. But I'd had that Twisted Sister album when I was like 12 or something. You know what I mean? Like, so that one has been in my head forever, and I hadn't known that, you know, the reference to it. So like there are scenes that are good. I love the scene where the high school kids come on with their corsages and stuff. That's like okay, this might actually be about something. I love that like 4 or 5 of the different climax to a giant scene were, will they make the train? Just like a little commuter based it is. Like, we got to get the L trail. We got to just jump the gates, and it's almost pulling away. And they had really good luck, you know, getting on trains. But yeah, I mean, you know, it's silly. That's a lot of silly crap in it too. Like I'd give it like a C plus, like a B minus.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, I'd say like a solid C plus. But like, you know, I didn't care about these people. I wasn't like, oh my god, I'm so emotionally invested in whether the Warriors make it. Like, of all the jerks in the movie, I was like, I guess these jerks are the ones that I'm supposed to care about.
The least jerky.
Yeah, although I like that guy with the sunglasses who was like the lead of everything, who's the riffs, I think. But
yeah.
The lead of I like that guy. That guy was
There's gonna be a spin-off movie of just the riffs.
Just the riffs, yeah. And I
they had their shit together.
Totally.
Like that was a tight operation.
That was a really tight. They ran a tight ship. They had a DJ.
They made it to Coney in no time whatsoever.
They had a DJ and everything. Why didn't they take them out? They were just like waiting on all these idiots to do it.
Yeah, they took an Uber down to Coney and they got there right away. Totally. Knew how to do it.
Yeah. But yeah, like you know, it's entertaining. I like the moment too where that's so weird. He has the 3 little bottles on his fingers, and he's like, ching,
it's insane.
Ching, 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 ching. I know. That's the only time that guy is creepy to me, or I'm like, damn, that's creepy as hell.
He's a
His
good
little
character that just didn't have enough great lines. But he really shines like right at that moment.
And they're mini Coke bottles. Just some weird detail. Just, where did you find 3 mini Coke bottles to do this? But that's creepy. And it's graffitied up friggin' like,
Hearse or whatever the fuck that was.
child molester hearse, whatever the heck that thing was. It has some cool iconic moments in it. It's got some great
Which is funny
lines.
because like the Rogues are from Manhattan too.
Yeah.
Like that gang. They're from
Oh
Manhattan.
yeah,
Like,
the Manhattan side.
it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I love how like the Coney Island gang is supposed to be super tough. I'm like, Coney Island? I didn't know it was known for its toughness. I thought it was known for its Ferris wheels and beachy walks. But yeah, it's got some iconic moments in it. It's got some great lines. It's got some great visuals. It does have something going on. There's something underneath it that makes it a movie. You know, it isn't just a collection of stupid scenes clashing into each other. But it's overall, it's not enough for me.
Yeah.
And I don't care about any of these people. You know, like this.
Would you watch it again on the big screen?
Yeah, I'd
came
see
out?
it again. Sure, like you know.
Do you have to care about people to make it a good movie?
I mean, it helps, right? Doesn't it?
Well, I love this movie.
Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts.
Despite
Yeah,
the flaws, and the flaws are innumerable. But I love the opening of this movie, like the little cuts, like the opening shot of the Wonder Wheel, and then the opening cuts of them like little asides that give you little peeks into their personalities and lay out the plot of like what's going on in the city, who rules, why they're traveling, like all of that. I think that it sets up the movie like just absolutely brilliantly. And then there's a lull in the middle where they're actually like running and chasing, and I feel like the fight scenes aren't as great as like every time I see it, I'm like these are not as great as I remember them being, except for the bathroom one where they're fighting the punks, the guy with the
Yeah.
I could watch that fight scene over and over and over again because that is actually a really well done fight scene where they bust out of the stalls and there's like spraying people in the faces. If throw in the mirror, like that is choreographed so well. Like yeah, just I feel like I appreciate that scene just like on a technical level, but yeah, it's just this movie is just fun from beginning to end, without all of the homophobia and misogyny and and things.
Which totally would have been present in
Totally.
1979.
If you can
Totally
set
would
that
have been, right,
aside and just view it as the sum of its parts, yeah, I would just watch this movie over and over again. And that definitely if it came out in the theater. So yeah, I give it an A. This is it's not my favorite movie of all time, but it's one that I look forward to whenever it comes on.
I love how much you love this movie. It's endearing to me.
It's ridiculous. It is patently a ridiculous film that should not be nearly as good as it is. Like it should be awful. It should be so stupid. But I feel like you just sit down and you watch it, and it delivers time and time again. All right. Well, let's wrap up the old Warriors podcast here. For the first time ever, we are going to pick next week's topic on air. So we're
not going to pick it.
Well, Chance is going to pick it. So we've got a list of about 20 or so items here, and I have a D20 Dune dice here. I'm going to roll it.
Dungeon Master.
Yep, and we're going to.
Can I interrupt
Chance? Yeah, please do.
What makes that a Dune die?
Oh, because it's from Dune Adventures in the Imperium, D&D game that I purchased. I can't find anyone to play with me either, so I just have these dice. So.
Oh man,
I just got all these dice, man.
Let me use them.
Isn't that what your oldest son is for? And just you're like, look, you're gonna play all these games that no one wants to play with me.
As much as I love him, he's not into Dune as much as I am. So you know.
No one is into Dune as much as you are.
All right, I'm hoping for 3 because 3
All right,
is
let's do
Dune.
it.
So,
No.
I got a 12-sided die.
all right, I'm gonna roll this, and let's see what next week's episode is gonna be about. It is number 17. Number 17 on the list is I Think You Should Leave Season 1.
Wow.
Oh, I love it.
Greg looks
this
very
is,
perplexed
What
right
is
now.
it?
This is something that
I don't
Brian
even
and
know what it is.
Brian and I love it so much. It's on
I've never
Netflix.
heard of it.
Each episode's
in my
15
life.
minutes long. You're gonna love it, Greg, or maybe you won't. I don't know. But so for next episode, we're gonna talk about I Think You Should Leave.
You should leave.
You're yeah. That's all.
How many episodes are
It doesn't
there?
matter. They're 15
How
minutes
much of
long.
a commitment is
It's a
this?
very. It's
Okay,
less than a
all right.
movie. It's less than Maverick.
It's a big.
It's
all
it's
right,
fine.
all right.
It's less than
Less than the
a
Warriors.
Maverick.
All right. It's next week. It's Cheers. We're gonna,
Yeah, every
we're all gonna
episode of
watch
Cheers.
this.
Every episode. of Cheers.
episode of Cheers.
All right.
Frasier.
Talk about them.
No, please don't.
Every season of Frasier is what we're watching.
Every-
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening to our talking about the Warriors, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen it, go out and see it immediately.
You'll dig it.
You will dig it. Trust me.
You can.